our blog forum spaces where we follow up with the articles of our previous contributors, and we are very excited about having today with us our dear friend and very good coach, Mike de Kraker. Hello, Mike. How you doing today?
Hi, Oscar. Thanks a lot for inviting me on this and to write a blog. I'm very good, very happy to be here. It was, quite a journey to write the blog in terms of the whole context and everything in it. So, no, grateful for the opportunity to be here.
I have to say that it's a very exciting topic today, and we were all talking and thinking and reviewing your topics, and it's I believe we will only have like 30 minutes, but I believe this one will be a very good talk on that topic for at least 2 hours. So let's see what we can get out of in these 30 minutes. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you. Yeah.
Okay. So let me say first that Coach Mike wrote an article for us recently with the title of "Coaching the Perfect Game." Mike is a U17 and U21 head coach in the Elite Academy in Antwerp, in Belgium. And so as our first question to you, and related with that article, that I use this occasion to remind everyone that they can go to our blog and have a lot of very good content there from coaches from all over the world. Like I said, my first question will be, how thin or thick is the line between coaching and micromanaging related with your topic?
Yeah, so that's a pretty good question to start off with. So like in coaching, we all know in basketball, especially on the highest level, it's all in the details. So then we're talking about micromanaging. So in youth, I want to give them a broader range of those details, of making them, let them play in those in that range. And then they have a little bit more room to play with, and they will figure out quite fast if that room is too big or that line is too thin. So if I notice that it's too thin because they cannot play freely anymore, I have to like widen the range of their play, so I have to allow a little bit more. And as with our teams, I want to start out really, really wide in terms of not micromanaging a lot, but just paying attention to what we are learning. So quite recently, I was watching a clinic from Alex Rama, and yeah, he was with us before. I still talk to him a lot, and he definitely helped me a lot in terms of this. And he had a guy repeatedly shoot in training shots while his foot was on the 3-point line. So then you would say that's a bad shot. But in terms of the learning process, that's not something I'm going to say up front, because that was not the learning the learning part we were teaching, and then in that exercise. So that's the range I want to play in, and that's the cognitive load youth players can use and can hold up.
Would it be possible that we have problems with micromanaging when we don't prepare our contents well enough? I mean, every time we plan our practices, we're supposed to, and I remember this is something we learned with the Spanish Basketball Federation, the way that you have to prepare your drills based on the different levels of abilities, but also paying attention to 2 or 3 technical or tactical focus, depending on that situation, that drill, and then just figuring out what the possible or potential problems the player is going to find, and your adequate answers to that problem. So, when I see coaches having problems with that, most of the times is related with not spending enough time preparing the content. Are you agree with that?
So that's not a great one, and I've done this before as well. Like I'm making the practice, and okay, we're going to work on these topics. And from the guys I coach, I know problem A, B, and C is going to be a problem. So we immediately focus on problem A, B, and C, and we train on that. And I think while doing that, now we're back to micromanaging again. So I want to start off in a broad way, like in a very wide way. So I want just to let them play with as minimal constraints as possible to see where they struggle. So I cannot focus on 1, 2, or 3 points. I have to see where they struggle. And Oscar, yeah, you might struggle at something, but Mike, you struggle at something different. So why should I let everybody learn the same piece or the same part while you already know it? And now we're going from wide to thin, and you might be, for example, if we talk about pick and roll, you might need extra repetitions in like making a pocket pass, while I might need a better vision of recognizing a help side defender. So we play pick and roll. I notice where the flaws are. You have that flaw, I have another flaw. What are we going to do? Because I wrote down 3 things that might go wrong, we all going to do that? Or are we looking at a broader way and we see, okay, this is the constraint we're going to work with? For example, you have to play a pick and roll in offense, and defense has to give defense A, B, or C. And now I see, okay, well, that was quite a good pocket pass. I didn't know Oscar could make that pocket pass. But in my practice planning, I already wrote down, we cannot make a pocket pass. Well, you just surprised me with making a decision we haven't trained before. So yes, you have to understand and you have to think about writing stuff down that can go wrong, but you cannot focus like with a blind focus on those things because that's what you want to do. No, your players can surprise you. If you put them in a right environment, they might find the solutions themselves.
That's an interesting approach. Are we talking here about PlayStation coaches?
Yeah.
Against a little bit of a guided street ball process?
Yeah. So talking about the PlayStation coach, I think that really hits well with all the players at this age and also like this generations. So while being at the PlayStation, you're being in control of what your player does. Like if you're playing NBA 2K or NBA Live, you're in control. So now you talk about all the coaches that are on the sideline. Oscar shoot, Oscar dribble, Oscar pass, Oscar look at the help side, look at the weak side. So now every time a player has to make a decision, he will look at you as a coach to make that decision for him or her. Well, we want to make sure that our players can make the decisions. And now we're talking about, okay, how do we give feedback? So this is a true example from my squad from the under-16s from last season. So we played a game, and one of my guys, he made a drive to the basket, and he noticed that there was a help side situation. So he wanted to kick the ball out in where it was 2 offensive players against 1 defensive player. So he recognized the advantage we had on that side. He made the pass, but the pass was intercepted by that single defender. So one of his teammates, so one of the players I have, said to him, "You have to look because there was an advantage." And now it's my time. Now it's my time to interject and say, well, he did look. The only thing what was missing was the execution on the pass. So that's something we have to work with. It was not that he recognized it; he did, but the execution was wrong. So what do we need to change, or what does he need to learn to execute that pass? So that's totally different than saying, you didn't see it. Yeah, he did saw it because he made a pass, but the pass was not completed. So now that's the part I want to micromanage. All right, how did you not make that pass? What flaws do you have in your game that you're not able to make that pass? And then we have to give feedback from our players to player in terms of seeing and saying the right thing. That feedback was not the feedback he should give to his teammate, because we saw the same thing. So that's more PlayStation coach against like transformational coaching, in which we allow them to make mistakes. We allow them to learn from those mistakes. So I have to question, did I prepare him well enough to make that pass? If not, how can I make sure that guy is able to make that pass? Because that's what's going to happen in the game.
We'll go to those topics now, but let me circle back a little bit. Related to what you just said, where does the key reside to allow players to find the answers by themselves? And how is this related to chaos in practice? Something that a lot of coaches run away from.
Yeah. So one thing I learned from Peter Lonergan when he was here in Antwerp is you have to be comfortable with the mess, right? So how many times as a coach, while they're playing, we're standing on the sideline, we're watching from the sideline. Do we have the same vision as our players have? Most likely not, because they're on a field on practice. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm walking in the game. I'm walking on the court. So I'm walking anywhere between 3-point line to 3-point line, and like the land lines, so like bucket lines extended. So in that kind of rectangular space, I'm moving. So I can see what players see, and I can give better feedback to them. So I have to be comfortable with chaos because it's going all over the place. And I have to make sure that I put in constraints in which they can work with. So I have to make sure that it's 1 or 2 constraints they have to work with. I have to find answers. I have to analyze what I'm seeing in game. And then I have to get into more breakdown, more small-sided games in those options I'm seeing difficulties in. And then I have to widen the range again, play again, maybe same constraints, maybe a little bit different. And is something like, do we see that they process the small-sided game stuff? And are we using it again in that more chaotic environment than that controlled smart-sided game?
Are you using any kind of scouting tools, or do you scout your own team during practice to go through this overloading and downloading the drills?
So I videotape all my practices. I upload them to a hidden YouTube page, and I'm sending it out to all the players, so they can review their own practice. It's the whole practice, so they have to skip back and forth if they want to see something about themselves. And I'm watching it as well because I want to analyze myself as a coach. What am I saying? When am I saying it? Like how many times we are saying, all right, good job at doing what? Like, nice. What's nice? Or sometimes I have to sit back, like in the block, and just say nothing. Because if there isn't anything to say, don't say anything. And that's the hardest part.
Yeah, I know that, for example, in UK with Mark Bennett, when he's consulting with some teams, they wear GoPro on the chest to analyze coaches' performance. Have you ever done that or go through that process?
So I haven't done that yet. What I'm going to do, and that's from starting next season, I will buy a little microphone where I'm going to attach to my shirt or whatever, in terms of that I can only hear myself in sound. So not in video. Of course, I still have the video I'm uploading, right? So I can like layer them up and I can still hear myself while in the video. But I want to hear myself in sound only. Is what I am saying something I need to say, or is it something I don't need to say? Because it doesn't add anything, or it takes away from the goals we have set before practice. So we make 3 goals at start of practice, not more, maximum 3 goals. But am I like adding up other goals while we go? For example, am I adding that we have to make a correct pass while that was not, have to make a correct read while that was not one of our first goals? So now I'm layering goals. Players' cognitive load will be like higher and higher, and to the point that what was the goal again? They don't know what the goal was again. So I have to be careful of what I'm adding.
It's interactive, right? It's like you redefining continuously the goals and the achievements and the details that you wanna work with.
So one thing I want to add up to that is as well. If I'm trying something out, I'm saying it to my players. So I say to my players, guys, we're going to try something out. We're going to do that. And I want to have your feedback. Even if it's under 17, even if it's under 21, I don't care. I'm going to try something out, and I want your feedback on how you felt like it was connecting with you as a player. Is it something that worked? Is it something that didn't work? And in that way, I can make sure that what I'm teaching is actually landing and what I'm teaching is actually helping them forward. But that's something we as coaches are scared of doing or might not want to do because you're not in control anymore or less in control. And we want to think that we are always in control.
Speaking of control and ways to manipulate the context in practice, because since we're supposed to recreate game conditions, what are the main ways that you use to manipulate that context in practice?
So basically, what there are a lot of things you can put constraints in, but I think one of the major things is that you have to narrow down a little bit of the decisions they can make in terms of teaching it with guided defense. So defense has to play defense, but can only give up A or B. And while doing that, or maybe see if they can, they have the capacity of adding an extra load. But by doing that, offense has to train their vision on that, so that we can perform that later on and we can recognize that pattern if defense plays it later on. So it's more of manipulating the decisions they can make in team concept, in skills concept. You want to talk about advantage and disadvantage, just to make sure that a defender has an advantage or an offensive player has an advantage in terms of what you are teaching.
This approach changes from U17 to U21, or use the same exact approach to both squads? Both teams?
So in general, it's like the constraints-led approach. So that's the general theme in that. So you want to train them with constraints, but overall, players that are under 21 should have normally 2 to 3 years extra load in training because they're 2 to 3 years older than players that from under 17. So you can go to more complicated stuff opposed to what you want to do in under 17, where you're still developing their basics in terms of recognizing patterns or recognizing decisions and making those decisions.
Would it be the same? Would it be the same case for U14s? Because it's very common these days to find people trying to apply really advanced and highly difficult details and situations to very young ages in basketball. So would it be the same thing with U14?
So talking about U14, if I'm talking about U14, I would be more into spacing principles. So I would be more into like, what's the general spacing? Because a lot of the players are not able or might not be capable of shooting a three-pointer with consistency. So what's the tendencies from those players? They want to creep in and want to stay inside the three-point line. While that takes away space from our other teammates to drive into. So you want, and under 14, you want to have that spacing principles and knowing like when to push pull, when to maybe circle over under, when to like fill in behind, different stuff in terms of that. While you might not be able to make a catch and shoot three, you might be able to step in the three-point line on the time the ball is in the air. So you will catch it 1-2 or maybe 0-1-2 inside the three-point line. But the moment the pass was given, you were outside the three-point line. So you're stepping into your shot and creating a little bit extra movement for you to take that mid-range shot in under 14 because you're not capable of shooting a three-pointer yet. Because shooting is, of course, a master key we all have to work on.
As I said before, and you mentioned something related with mistakes already, but in your article you mentioned celebrating mistakes. We should celebrate mistakes. We should celebrate, allow mistakes, pursue mistakes, encourage them, or
Yep.
What we should be doing, because celebrating mistakes and allowing mistakes might sound different, but could be the same thing.
No, so what I'm talking about is celebrating mistakes. Every time you hear the word mistake, it's automatically something that in your head that's wrong. A mistake is something you did wrong, and something that it's wrong, it's negative. But in youth, we're developing them. So, for example, um, if we're getting angry or we're getting mad when they make a wrong decision or make a pass that ends up being a turnover, they will never ever allow that pass again. Or sorry, make that pass again. So if they see somebody cutting back door, but the previous one or two times they made a turnover, it's like, ah, fuck, I'm not going to make that pass again because coach, he will be on my ass. He will be like, yeah, no. If you recognize that back door and that back door is open, and you are able to see it and you're able to make a pass to it, but that pass is intercepted or might be a turnover because you hit it against the ball and it goes out of bounds. We should celebrate that mistake because he did saw it. And I don't want to bash on a player because he recognized the right pass. I have to make sure once again that I make sure that he's able to make that pass. So I even know one coach that went as far as when he recognized such an advantage, and I just cannot figure out who it was. I don't know anymore. But what he did was, if something like that happened and that pass went out of bounds, offense gets the ball back. So I made the wrong decision. I made a pass because I recognized it, but the pass went out of bounds. I'm getting the ball back because he wants them to make that pass and not discourage them of making that pass because we will get angry. No, we want to celebrate those mistakes. You made a right read. Technique is not right. Do it again. Don't say them that they are not allowed to, because that will completely rip off their confidence. They will like drop heads, drop shoulders. They won't take any risks.
I like that very much, and I share the same idea. How do you find balance between learning and overloading their cognitive space? It's something that you also mentioned in the articles.
Yeah.
And what are your tools to achieve that, to achieve it?
So really, that's about asking asking players for their feedback and observing yourself. So in practice, I'm observing. Okay, I added load A, B. I added decision A and B. Are they comfortable quick enough so that I can maybe take in decision C, or are they not comfortable enough because 90% of them are still struggling with making decision A or B, then I'm not going to add up C. If I observe that they are capable within like 90% that they are able to do that, I will say to those 90%, okay, you can add C, and maybe I will take those 10% of the people and I will say, okay, we're still going to work on A and B because you're not quite there yet. And we should not make a fuss about that I'm letting players do something more and other players still in the same, because that's the learning pattern we're in. Everybody has a different learning pattern. So why should somebody still practice a right-handed layup because somebody else is not capable of doing a right-handed layup? You can better allow them to do something different.
Do you ever step away from a drill because it's not working and
Yeah.
change completely your?
Yeah, I have done that many times, many times. Like you just see right away if it's working or not. So one of the things I will do is, for example, after warming up, I will start with just a live game, 4-on-4, maybe 5-on-5, depending on like the players or like the level. Right now we have to train outside because of the restrictions, so that court is not that big. So 5v5 is a little bit more crowded. So I would say 4-on-4, and we play 5 to 7 minutes with one constraint or two constraints in defense. And after that game, we will make feedback. So during that game, I'm not saying anything. I'm just coaching on those constraints. So I'm repeating the constraints we decided on. And after the game, we will go into feedback mode. What did you notice? For example, the constraints were switching, but they all switched on lazy switches. They never really like jumped into him to switch. So they say, okay, we made lazy switches. Great, that's an observation you made. So we take 1, 2, or 3 points. We will run it again for maybe 5 minutes, so not 7, but 5. And I don't have to do anything because they made the decisions themselves. And while that 7 minutes looked like shit, they changed it themselves. So now they're coaching each other. We cannot do lazy switches anymore. We have to really step it up. And I might say, okay, if you do a lazy switch, offense gets 1 extra point. Even more incentive for them to really give feedback to each other. So I might not step away right away, but I would challenge them to make it better. And if something really, like I'm doing something and it doesn't work, I'm like, skip it. I might do something they already know or break it down in smaller groups so that they do something else so that I get the focus back.
Share with us some of the strategies that you use to expand your knowledge, because you also talk about that in your piece, and we all have our own ways. But what are your personal strategies to expand your knowledge?
So right now I talked about Kaizen in the blog. So we want to improve ourselves daily. So on a daily, I want to improve. So for example, that can be I want to speak with a coach on a specific topic on a day, or I want to read. So I'm reading a lot as well. I try to read in the morning before I go to work, or I try to read after work. And next to that, that's something we how we met is that every now and then I'm organizing coaches calls. So I'm just organizing the calls, and like you guys are doing right now, we have a call with the 2 of us, but I'm just inviting many people to watch, and it's open to watch for everybody, because I'm not like, if I want to gain knowledge and other people are interested in it as well, I want to like bring it all in, because it's not just for me. The whole basketball like world, I felt like a lot of coaches are really supportive of helping each other. And I think that's the biggest learning point. Just don't be afraid to ask somebody for help.
And you organize very, very interesting talks, and I know myself, because I'm trying to jump on one of those for a long time already. But our time zones are so different that I'm always sleeping when you do those ones. So one day you will have to do one of those in Asian time zone.
I will.
I just got a question from Spanish ACB for professional coach, and we will end up with this one. He asked me, he told me to ask you about how do you manage your timeouts during games, with the approach of, looking for the perfect coaching game. How do you manage the timeouts, and how do you prepare that with the players beforehand?
Yeah. So up front, we all make like a game analysis, right? Well, what do we want to do in the game? How I may do substitutions, but more importantly, the game plan. So what are my focus points when I'm playing against this team? So out here, all the guys know each other, right? If you're a good player, you know the opposing good players as well. So you just know each other. So I can write something down, but I want them to organically come up with it. So in the locker room up front, I'm talking about, okay, I might have on my sheet, we switch. We want to play tag up, and we want to box out in defense, just naming 3 random things. So I want to say, okay, how can we like stop Oscar from always scoring off the pick and roll? And they will maybe one of them, we can switch, coach. We can do an aggressive switch. Perfect. Let's do an aggressive switch. Everybody agree? All right, perfect. 1. I already noted it, but they came up with it. So it's, again, those common goals. Or I will guide them through it. Same with tagging up, same with defensive rebound. Hey, guys, they are really pushing us on the offensive support last game. So what do we have to do better right now? We have to box out, coach. All right. So in the timeouts, I'm coming back to those three points that we decided on. And I'm just quickly going over 1 offensive point, 1 defensive point, and then I'm going to the next ATO. What are we going to do next? And I might draw it up. But I even had it at one of my players. It was a really close game. It was a preseason game, but it was a really close game. And one of my players said, I took a timeout, and he said, coach, if we're going to do this play, we're going to score. I said, here's my coach board, aka Popovich style. Here's my coach board. Do it. we end up didn't score didn't score on the play, but I like the energy and like the confidence of being able to share that, and they have to grow in it. So I'm allowing them to step back and do it. So yeah, to come back to the question, I'm looking for one offensive point, one defensive point that we might have decided up front, and I will go into the next ATO. But once again, I will not add in any more goals that we didn't decide on, because their cognitive load cannot handle that at this point. I cannot say we have to play more pick and roll while our goal was something totally different. That like will create confusion within the cognitive load.
Fantastic conversation. Enjoying a lot with the talk. Sadly, we have to finish. Like I said before, this will make a very, very nice conversation for at least 2 hours, but we have to cut it short. Where the rest of the coaches, if they want to reach out to you, where they can do that, how they can do that, what's the best way to reach out to you if they have any questions, any doubts?
Yeah, so my Twitter DMs are open. So please feel free to send me a DM on Twitter. That's most likely the best place to reach out to me. And my Twitter handle is just Mike _de _Kraker, so my full name. Just reach out to me. My DMs are open, and I will try to respond as fast as possible.
Awesome. So, like I said before, Mike is coaching the U17 and U21 Elite Academy teams in Antwerp, and he wrote for us "Coaching the Perfect Game" that you can find in sportcoach.es on the blog option. Thanks a lot, Mike. It's been awesome. Thank you so much for your time, your care for the detail, your passion for the game, and sharing with the rest of us. And we appreciate that you added a lot of value to the blog. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Oscar, and thank you everybody from SportCoach as well for organizing this.
All right, keep in touch. Be safe, my friend.
Yes, same for you, man.
All right.